With the barracks built in the previous episode, this episode I wanted to finish off the outpost by building up the courtyard area. But before I start working on that, I first wanted to build a dairy farm to begin setting the tone for the village behind the outpost. I decided to use the same timber framing design queue as the barracks, since the villagers in this frontier settlement would be less wealthy when compared to Linesguard in Season 2, where each building had a unique color scheme. This particular building is 2 stories tall, so we have a stone-built ground floor to differentiate it a bit from the barracks. Here on the ground floor is a cow milking parlor. I wanted to represent a way to hold the cow in place and settled on this wooden swinging mechanism that forms a frame around the cow, limiting its wiggle room. We also have buckets of milk and a storage rack for barrels, presumably for aging cheese. There is a fireplace here in case of colder nights, so some of the cows can stay in here instead of the barn, which is a separate building. The second floor is a living space for the farmers. It's a simple integrated space for cooking, eating and sleeping. They would spend most of their days outdoors tending to the cows, so this is probably enough. There's only space for 1 bed, so I guess the kids would have to sleep on the floor. I went with the same roof tiling technique as the barracks to keep it all in theme, but here we now have a gable roof instead of a one-sided roof on the barracks. The 2 black plates holds these roof panels in place instead of using hinge bricks. This simple technique minimizes gaps and makes the roof less bulky, since extra thickness would be needed to accommodate the hinge bricks. With the main build done, we now need to expand the diorama behind the outpost to place it. I made the elevation gradually slope down from the outpost to convey the idea that the outpost is sitting on a hilltop in a more defensible position. So we now have the crop field sloping down at the front and the village sloping down at the back. The main build is placed off-grid on a turntable piece for a more natural look. I built an outhouse which is placed behind the main build. You might remember a similar outhouse build in Season 1. I've scaled it down by a few bricks here since I think the old one was a bit too tall. Next is the barn for the cows to eat and sleep. It's just a simple open air space with a roof, since we have the milking parlor as a backup enclosure during colder nights. Now the farm just needs a wall encircling it, but before I can build it, I had to rework the terrain a bit. Water does not flow uphill, so I had to raise the irrigation channels for the crop fields up front to match the height of the hilltop. This raised channel also partly acts as a wall for the farm. You'll notice that the channel abruptly ends here, since this is the source of the water which I will be building in a later episode. With the new layout established, we will begin filling in some terrain work, build the walls, add some pathing and other details within the farm. With the diorama expanded, we can also add some supports for the palisade walls behind the barracks to mirror the supports seen up front. Having completed the dairy farm, we can now turn our attention towards the Outpost Courtyard area. There's quite a few builds to be placed, but first we have to finish off all the pathing within the courtyard. The first build is a notice board with various postings such as bounty posters. The prominent one there is the 5,000 coins reward for Lytton, who handed himself in a couple of episodes ago. Next is a well, which is a primary landmark forming a village square around it. It acts as a backup water supply. The primary water supply are the irrigation channels. The third build is a jail cell with a platform on top. Here's Lytton inside the cell. This is basically the capital punishment corner of the outpost, where inmates are kept below and punishments are handed out above. Since there is a cell below, I couldn't use the trapdoor method here, so the victim will have to be raised up with this rotation mechanism. A neck bracket piece with a modified plate is connected to the droid arm to perform the hang. This platform also doubles as a stage for village meetings and other performances. In the previous episode, 3 farmhands were slain in the fields. For the next build, we have their coffins placed atop a pile of wood ready for cremation, which will be taking place in the story segment of this episode. Here we have the rear entrance gate separating the village from the outpost. It uses the same crossbeam locking method as the front gate. Next to the gate is a second ballista tower, which doubles as a blacksmith on the ground floor. I wanted to build another tower here to give an idea of what the main gatehouse up front might have looked like before being upgraded to a stone castle. Although it probably would have been a bit larger than this one, since this is the safer side facing the village. The floor space within this tower is too small for all the blacksmith equipment, so the rest of it will be placed outside. Captain, the homestead and the surrounding fields down south have been reduced to ash, just as the witnesses described, Sergeant Steven reported. Yes, I expected as much. We had an encounter with the masked men. You've probably noticed the burnt field on your way up here. Captain Hewitt replied. I meant to ask about that. 3 of our farmhands are dead. The assailants fled afterwards. The cremation is about to start. Magus Aberin has prepared space for them in the crypt. You and all the men should attend. A show of strength will help dispel fear in the hearts of the villagers. I know rumors have been stirring about the circumstances of their deaths. It is true. A new band of thugs is roaming the area and deliberately disrupting the peace. Rest assured, it is our top priority to enact justice upon them. They are no mere thugs, Joff interrupted. I told you all oh so many times of the unspeakable things that dwell in the veil of the endless flames. Those beyond life are beyond justice. Good grief. This isn't the time for one of your ludicrous tales, Joff. I've seen it with my own eyes. Vast labor camps filled with ordinary folk like you and I. That is why they are here. If you interrupt the captain one more time, Joff, I will shut you up permanently. Alright. Ignore me at your own peril. Wait. Does this mean your stories about the green fish people living in the sea and the little hairy men living under the mountains are true as well, Joff? Hey, don't forget about the wingless dragons prancing around like chickens. If I may, Magus Aberin began hesitantly. According to the scriptures I've studied, I'm fairly certain that the short hairy men who dwell beneath the mountains do indeed exist. As for the fish people, and whatever he claims to have seen in the Ashlands, well, I'm far less convinced. Still, there have been whispers in the capital lately about a skirmish on some islands in the southern seas, said to involve our elven allies and certain sea beasts. But for now, it's all just rumors. See? I've traveled the world to breathe life into my songs. Wouldn't be a world-famous bard if I just stayed here with you, miserable lot. Right. World-famous. Settle down now, folks. We must show respect for the fallen. I will reiterate again, these thugs will be brought to justice. Once the cremation is done, Magus Aberin will take the remains to the crypt. What's the plan, Captain? Shall we begin the search at first light? They've dealt with the forest bandits. The woods are now effectively under their control. Entering it would be playing into their hands. I suspect the attack was meant to lure us in, otherwise they wouldn't have struck in broad daylight and risk being seen. Aye, that does make sense, though I doubt a band of thugs would scheme like that. They were likely just out to cause chaos. Never underestimate your foes, Steven. Lives depend on it. They've caused destruction multiple times now. They will return for more, and when they do, we will be prepared, Captain Hewitt said, his tone unyielding. I'd like to give a big shout out to our channel members supporting the creation of Scarellis, with a special thank you to our captains, Brendan Bundyboy Davies, Karnosh, Kaya Fried Rice 38, and Omni Khan. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.